Thank you so much for joining us online today. We so appreciate you checking out this message. We hope you enjoy it and are inspired to live more and more like Jesus Christ by His grace. If you would like to support the ministries of Rancho, you can do so at rancho.tv/giving. Set up a giving profile and a reoccurring gift. We'd sure appreciate that. Enjoy.
For those of you who don't know, my name's Alex. I'm usually over there doing what Steve does, and then usually Scott's here doing a little bit of what I'm going to do. But we're in the middle of a worship series, and this morning is my morning. We talked about how every week a different person was going to get a different morning. And so this morning is my morning, and it's kind of interesting because, I'm going to get some stuff out of the way first. First of all, I'm going to wear these things because I need to see what's going on over here, because I'm going to tell a story and it deserves for me to stay on track. And so I want to make sure I do a good job of that. I don't know what happened. I turned 50 and all of a sudden I'm just blind. I can't see anything right in front of me, but these help. So thank you for bearing with me on that. This morning is just a little bit different. I'm going to tell a story, and then we're going to worship through some songs. And we're going to talk this morning about something that I was kind of surprised that actually I landed on, and that's how to worship when you can't. I'm a former youth pastor, former worship leader, did all the crazy fun games and learned how to play guitar and lead worship. So I thought like maybe some of that experience would help. But I have a little bit of a different story to share with you this morning. So before I get going, I want to give you a little warning in case you might be triggered by some of the things that I'm going to be talking about. This is the story of our 4-year-old daughter and a life-threatening journey that she went through. So that's something that's tough for you. I just want you to be prepared and be aware of that. And we'll be talking about that this morning. So I'll remember Thursday, August 28th, 2014, like it was yesterday. It's one of those phone calls that you never, ever want to get. It was my wife, and she said, something happened to Maggie. She was taken by ambulance from the dentist to the hospital, and we're now waiting for Life Flight to take her to Loma Linda. You need to get here now. An hour later, I walked into a situation that nothing could have prepared me for. My 4-year-old daughter was hooked up to more equipment than I could even comprehend. And before I could even grasp what was happening, a helicopter was outside waiting to take her to the next hospital. Even today, I can still hear the sound of that engine winding up, and I can feel the desert heat as I was out there and as we watched our little girl fly away. Jen and I made the calls. Family and friends stepped in to care for all of our other kids, and we made that long drive to the next hospital. The next several hours were filled with fear, panic, anxiety, and more sadness than either of us have ever experienced in our lives. When we arrived at Loma Linda, the PICU staff were in a flurry. They were working tirelessly to diagnose her and to stabilize her. But things just kept getting worse and worse. And I distinctly remember the doctor pulling Jen and I aside and saying, your daughter is very sick. You need to prepare for the worst. And this broke us. We didn't have words. We didn't know what was next. We didn't know what to do. Later, we would learn that Maggie had aspirated, was basically choked, and then asphyxiated during a simple dental procedure, which led her to a critical condition. All of her organs shutting down, slipping into sepsis, just the worst things that you can imagine. This is a picture of Loma Linda, and it's just a picture that reminds me of just the darkness that we felt in those moments. We had no hope. We didn't know what was next. Maggie was hooked up to more machines than we could count. We would go in her room and she was just still, lifeless, machines keeping her alive on a ventilator. And so we waited. We watched and we prayed. But we worshiped. And I can't quite explain how that works, but I'm going to try this morning to talk a little bit more about that. The staff at Loma Linda, I can't even tell you. If any of you are in the medical field out there, we are so thankful. Nurses, doctors, specialists, They cared for Maggie like she was their own. They would wash her. They would clean her. They would make sure she was warm when she needed to be warm and cold when she needed to be cold. They would attend to her every need. They would braid her hair. And one of the things that they would do is they would play worship music in her room. And as we were there by her side, these two songs kept coming on. And they were these two songs, Oceans and It Is Well. And these two songs became our anthems. We listened to them in her room, in the halls, on the walk from the Ronald McDonald House to the hospital, in waiting rooms. There's a garden there that you can go, and this picture is just a picture of us looking up into the sky and listening to these songs. It seemed like the songs were echoing through the whole hospital. It was these songs that carried us when we didn't have the words to pray. We didn't have the will to pray. We didn't have the strength to pray. They gave us a ground to stand on when our faith was shaken. And I think this might be how you worship when you can't. You let these songs carry you. You let the music move you. You sense God's presence as you're hearing them. And they fan that spark of faith that's always somewhere deep inside you. So I thought this morning we could kind of practice this idea of worshiping when you can't. What is it like to worship when you have no hope? When you don't know the end of the story? And so there's these two songs. One is Oceans. It's actually kind of a difficult song to sing. And it's going to be led by her sister, which is pretty cool. But there is a bridge in that song, and it's really powerful. Would you kind of teach that bridge to us real quick?
Spirit, lead me where my trust is without pause. Let me walk upon the water wherever you would call me. Take me deeper than my feet could ever wander. My faith will be made stronger in the presence of my Savior.
Would you stand with us and let's just practice singing this bridge together? Just us with Evan.
Spirit, lead me where my trust is without border.
Let me walk upon
You walk upon the water.
wherever you would lead.
Wherever you would call me.
Take me deeper.
Take me deeper than my feet could ever walk.
In my
My
faith,
faith will be made strong.
in the presence of my Savior.
Presence of my Savior.
And the second song that we're going to sing is a song called It Is Well. And if you've been a part of the church for a long period of time, you might know that old hymn, It Is Well. It's been redone. It's just a powerful song that just kind of puts into words this feeling of, I don't know, but I'm going to sing it as well. And there's a chorus on this that we need to learn together as well, right?
Through it all, my eyes are on you. Through it all, it is well. Through it all, my eyes are on you, and it is well with me.
So let's worship together with these two incredible songs.
Great unknown,
faith will be made stronger in the presence of my Savior. Spirit, lead me where my trust is without borders. Let me walk upon the waters wherever you would call me. And take me deeper than my feet could ever wander. And my faith will be made stronger in the presence of my Savior. I will call upon your name. Keep my eyes above the waves. My soul will rest in your embrace, for I am yours, and you are mine.
Sing this together. It is well. Through all things, through all situations, to be able to know that our God is God, and that we can say, "It is well with my soul." Let's sing.
And earth has quaked before, moved by the sound of his voice. Seas that are shaken and stirred can be calmed and broken from my regard. Through it all, my eyes are on you. Through it all, it is well. Through it all, my eyes are on you. It is well with me. Leave it for me to not believe, even when my eyes can't see. And this mountain that's in front of me will be thrown into the midst of the sea. Through it all, my eyes are on you. Through it all, it is well.
Through it all, sing.
Through it all, my eyes are on you. It is well
You guys can go ahead and have a seat. As you've heard those words, you probably now know why those songs were so powerful for us. But I want to be very, very honest and authentic with you. Those words, through it all, my eyes are on you. Through it all, it is well. That was not the case in my life, for sure. I'll speak for my wife. It was not the case in her life either. We were very shaken. We were very hopeless. We were very confused. We were very angry. And yet those songs somehow reminded us of who God is, reminded us of our faith. And as people sang those songs, as we listened to those songs, as we heard them, they just kept drawing us back closer and closer to God. I think it's a powerful way of worshiping when you can't, is to just open yourself up to the idea that that's okay if your faith is shaken. It's okay if you don't have the answers. It's okay if God doesn't work in the way that you want him to. Still God. Still faithful. It's just not very easy to worship when you can't. I totally understand that. So, Wednesday, September 3rd, is another day that I'll always forget, 2014, because it was a huge victory day for Maggie. After a week of fighting against the forces that were draining the life from her, she fought through and was successfully extubated, and she took her very first breaths on her own. It was a miracle. Everyone said it, the doctors, the specialists, everyone in the hospital. She was alive. She wasn't out of the woods, but it was over. The worst was over, but over the next week, she would improve every single day. She finally got off oxygen. She finally got off all the other machines that were keeping her alive. She took her first bites of food. She took her first ride around the hospital. Our hearts were relieved and they were full. Her brothers and sisters and family and friends all got to come visit, which only improved her recovery. And then on September 9th, after 13 days being in the hospital, we brought her home. It's a picture of her in her bed with all of her stuffies. And one of the cool things about being in the hospital is everybody that came to see her brought her a stuffy. And our whole car was full of them. Her bedroom was full of them. Over the years, we've kind of purged a little bit. There's still a few that still hang out in her room. And so we're very thankful. There's so much more to this story. There's so much more that I want to share. There's so many people who showed up for us. So many people from our family, our friends, our church family, strangers. So many people met every single need that we had during that time. And Maggie's story continues to touch people far beyond the community that's right here out into the world. So many people were praying for her. So many people were asking about her. We're happy to report that today she's a thriving high schooler. She's 14. She's a beast. That's her in beast mode right there. We call it beast mode. She's been playing soccer her whole life, and she plays for the Temecula Valley All-Stars, and she's a goalie, of course. She's a defender when she's not a goalie, and she's just an incredible young woman, a great student, great sister, great daughter. Couldn't ask for more. She's just an incredible person, and we are incredibly blessed that she is here with us today. In fact, she is here with us today in this room. I won't embarrass her. But there's things in my mind that I think about all the time. One of those is that a lot of stories don't end like ours did. There are so many people who are hurting, so many people who are confused, so many people who are scared and hopeless. There's so many that get that phone call and their lives are upended and changed forever. I think about the hundreds that were just lost in the Texas floods. What about the great injustices going on around the world? What about the exponential numbers of people who are lost by war or famine or evil regimes, especially children? What about the person today who's here with us or online with us who has recently lost a loved one? What about the person whose marriage has fallen apart or whose family's been destroyed by abuse or politics? What about the person whose faith has been shattered by someone in the name of God? How do you worship when that's going on in your life? I don't know what it is about me, but I sit over here every Sunday morning, and these thoughts go through my head every single Sunday when I look out at this crowd of people. How are they supposed to worship when everything around them is falling apart? I'm sure I'm not the first person who's asked that question, and I'm sure that there's no easy answer to that. But here's what experience has taught me. It's that these songs that we sing together, this community of singing and worship and music, this feeling of solidarity when we sing these words together, this place we call the church, it has the ability to somehow transcend us and remind us of things that we have forgotten. It's like a warm blanket or a hug from a friend that just warms our souls and gives us a voice to speak into situations that we don't know how to speak into. And maybe just give us a little bit of hope. There's this song that I'm so excited that we get to sing today. It's a song that comes right out of Psalm 40, almost word for word. It's called Psalm 40, and it's by my favorite band, U2. And it's this idea of lament. It's this idea of, yes, we believe in God. Yes, we know he's faithful. Yes, he has picked us up out of the mire and saved us. But there's this whole other world that is suffering and hurting and injustice and pain and sorrow and no answers. And so we say, how long do we sing this song? How long do we sing this song? How long must we suffer? How long must we struggle? And the cool part is like, this just kind of goes to prove a point that there's something so powerful about singing these words together as a community. I've been to several U2 concerts. I've been very, very, very lucky. This is 100,000 people singing How Long together. This is how they close their shows. And 100,000 people are singing How Long to sing this song. The band leaves the stage and the people continue to sing because the struggle is real. Everybody gets it. Everybody knows it. And when we sing these songs together, something happens that gives us a new hope. And so we're going to sing this song this morning. Evan's going to come out and kind of teach it to us real quick. This is one of those songs where, for me, as soon as I hear it, as soon as I hear Glenn and Chris on the drums and bass, the hairs on my arms stand up, and I'm like, okay, here we go. We're going to do this. So teach us how this chorus goes real quick.
Hello, sing this song. Hello, sing this song. How long, how long, how long, sing this song.
If you would stand with us and let's practice lament. Let's practice worshiping together.
Waited patiently for the Lord. He inclined and heard my cry. He lift me up out of the pit, out of the miry clay. I will sing, sing a new song. I will sing, sing a new song. Sing this song. Many will see, many will sing here. I will sing, sing a new song. 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 Oh, Lord, sing this song. Oh, Lord, sing this song. Oh, Lord, sing this song.
You may be seated. All right, well, as you may know, that we are in the middle of a brief 4-week mini-series this summer about worship, about singing through melody, through lyrics, and so things are a little different. There's more music and less message, so I'm going to give you a short message leading into our final song to talk about our theme today, which is how to worship when you can't. And that really is walking in lament, asking the question, how long, O Lord? How long, O Lord? That is a theme throughout, particularly the Old Testament, as the nation of Israel is struggling, and they're praying, and nothing is working their way, and they're asking God, where are you? And then they slip into evil, and they say, God, how can we possibly be forgiven by you? How can we have your grace anymore because we've walked away from you? And God gives them a path to restoration. The Old Testament is largely about walking through suffering in a spirit of lament. And so when we talk this summer about practicing the way of Jesus, it is about practicing the way of lament, of sorrow, but it's also about practicing the way of hope, and we can hold both at the same time. And that is the beauty of being made in the image of God, is we can hold both a spirit of lament and sorrow and not lose hope that better days can be ahead. So it's about walking in both lament and hope. That is the way of Jesus. So let's first talk about lament. Lament is a passionate expression of grief or sorrow. It's not just about feeling sorry about something, sort of from a distance. It's an experience of grieving and sorrow that can come from both our own struggle, as the McLeans have shared, and thank you all for sharing your story. It's a powerful, powerful, powerful journey, but there's these seasons of hopelessness that we walk with, and we feel our own sorrow and our own pain and our own suffering. But lament should go beyond that, and we should look to others and to say, okay, it's my privilege and pleasure to walk alongside of you in your suffering. And one of the things I love about the pastoral ministry, and I know for you in your own worlds and your workplaces and neighborhoods, is that when somebody is struggling, to be able to say to somebody, what of your burdens can I bear? It is a privilege and a pleasure to walk alongside you and maybe take any bit of this suffering from you so I can carry that load with you. So lament is something that we walk in our own journey, and it's something we walk in the lives of others. It's a pleasure and a privilege, even though it may not be fun or pleasant. But lament is also about carrying the burdens of the world around us. This world is a broken world, and if you're a student of history, you know that the arc of history is heading in a good place. We are, healthier and living longer and more prosperous, and actually less violence on the earth now than there ever has been in human history, by a long shot. But still, there are pockets of this world that are brutally difficult with intense suffering, and so lament is a passionate expression of grief and sorrow for all of it. 1 John 5:17, the author, John, just simply puts it, all unrighteousness is sin. And so lament is experiencing the gap between the righteousness of God, the goodness of God, the God who desires the best for everyone. This is the goodness and the purity of God. And then there's the evil of the world, where we have taken the image of God in us and we've turned it to harm people, and we've turned it to war and violence and greed and abuse. That gap between the righteousness of God and the brokenness of this world, the sin of this world, is where lament lives. God laments. God laments in the gap. He says, I created this world good, and I made you good, and I gave you my image, and you've turned that image for evil, and God laments with us. And so to walk in lament, to walk in sorrow and grief, and to experience that is to walk in the heart of God. So we are, I think, called to carry lament, but we're also called to carry hope at the same time. What is hope? It's a feeling of expectation and desire for a positive future. I believe that better days can be ahead. I believe that there is going to be a brighter future, but I want to put a nuance to this definition because it's healthy to understand hope from a certain perspective that I think this phrase articulates. A feeling of expectation that what is wrong just might be made right at some point. So do you see the nuance there, right? Just might be made right. Because if we are counting on something to go our way and it doesn't go our way, then we've lost hope and we can sink into really an unrecoverable place. So hope can be alive even when what we hope for doesn't happen. And in whatever story you're going through, if that story has ended in tragedy and didn't work the way you prayed it would and hoped it would, you can still keep hope alive because there is the next hopeful expectation that the wrong just might be made right at some point. So it's kind of holding expectation with a little bit of an open hand, because if we are counting on, God, you will heal, and it doesn't happen, we can lose everything. We can lose hope, we can lose faith. We can lose all strength. So a feeling of expectation that what is wrong just might be made right at some point. This is the way of Jesus, of both lament and hope. Now, I think Jesus may have been the only person to walk in both perfectly, but some of us are wired one way or the other. There are those who are wired or lean towards lament. Some people lean towards lament. Alex, I think, confessed that he might lean towards lament when he's here on a Sunday morning, and as we talk about the Word of God and as we sing, the suffering of the world is always on his mind. That's a gift, and I would say that's even a superpower. There are two superpowers of people who lean toward lament. One is you see broadly, and the other is you feel deeply. A lot of people, maybe even most people, are wired to see things pretty narrow. My life, my world, my family, my friends, my schedule, and that's okay. That's kind of natural wiring. But we don't really see the suffering of others or the suffering of the world if we see narrowly. So people who lean towards lament see a bigger world. And there's a burden to that. But it is something very unique. It is a superpower because you're able to then notice when people are in pain, notice when people are suffering. You see the looks in somebody's eyes that's different today than it was yesterday because you see things that are broad. And then you're able to come alongside of people with empathy and bear that burden because you feel deeply. That is your superpower. The prophet Jeremiah in the Old Testament had the superpower of leaning lament. In fact, there's a whole book called Lamentations. It is the kind of the suffering of Jeremiah for his own life, which was a mess, and the life of his people, which was a mess, and the life of the world, which was a mess. And here's just a tiny little part of his lamentation. He has filled me with bitterness and given me a bitter cup of sorrow to drink. He has made me chew on gravel. He has rolled me in the dust. Peace has been stripped away, and I have forgotten what prosperity is. I cry out, my splendor is gone. Everything I hope for from the Lord is lost. How's that for lament? If you feel bad and want somebody to walk alongside of you, read Lamentations, right? But this is seeing broadly and feeling very deeply. So leaning toward lament could steer you towards chronic pessimism. So that's kind of what you have to guard against. If you lean towards lament, guard your heart because you could bear so much suffering of the world that you end up sinking. And so sometimes it's healthy to just disconnect and do something positive. Disconnect and do something fun. Pause from the news for a little bit. Take a break, right? And go to an amusement park, ride a roller coaster. Do something, right, that can kind of get you out of that mire of lament. And also guard negativity. People who are wired to lament may see the negative because they see the suffering and feel the suffering. And so that might spill out a little bit. So you have to discipline yourself maybe to not see the negative always or express the negative always. Some people lean more lament. Some people lean toward hope. These people also have a superpower. They have a superpower that they see the good in everything and they see the possibilities, right? They see the good in everything and they see the possibilities. And so these are the folks where no matter what is going on, they're looking for the bright spot. They're looking for that ray of sunshine, right? And sometimes we need that. If we're going through suffering, we need somebody just to pour in some positivity when we don't see it. And they also see the possibilities. that whatever we're going through, this can turn, the story can turn. There can be better days ahead. I think the Apostle Paul in the New Testament could possibly be accused of being one who leans more hopeful. His life largely was a disaster. He's going city by city preaching the good news of Jesus, and everybody's rejecting him and literally beating him up in the street and hitting him with sticks and throwing rocks at him. Everybody's rejecting him and casting him away, but he's consistently persisting city by city by city, and in it all, he sees the positive. He says this in Philippians 4:11, I have learned how to be content with whatever I have. I know how to live on almost nothing or with everything. I've learned the secret of living in every situation, whether it is with a full stomach or empty, with plenty or little. And this is a famous verse, for I can do everything through Christ who gives me strength. His world is sinking. He is alone. And he's writing from a distance to this church that hasn't really visited him like they should. And he's saying, I still see the good. God will give me strength. Leaning toward hope could steer you towards naive optimism. So if you lean towards hope, be careful. You could be naively optimistic. And you could be well-meaning, looking at the best in things, but you could come across as kind of trite. Like, oh, well, God will turn this around, right? God will turn every bad into good. Oh, you'll be okay. May or may not be entirely true, right? So just kind of guard that naive optimism. Then also be careful not to dismiss the sufferings of others, because you're leaning hopeful and you're leaning positive. You turn to the positive too quick. Well, somebody's really suffering and they don't need that from you. They need a friend. They need somebody to bear a burden. They need your hopefulness, maybe to walk in a season of lament with them. So we can carry both. We can carry both. Because too much lament and not enough hope can be draining. We could even sink into depression. Can't lose hope. But too much hope and not enough lament can create a lack of empathy and a superficial life. So we can carry both. And Jesus carried both, right? Jesus carried both. In his last week on earth, he weeps for Jerusalem, who was about to suffer intensely. He knew what was coming to Jerusalem. They were going to be decimated by the Roman Empire. And he was weeping, knowing the suffering that was to come. But then a couple days later in Luke chapter 21, he is talking about the analogy of a fig tree and how a fig tree doesn't look so great in the winter, but just wait, spring is coming. And so he says, yes, there's going to be suffering, but spring is coming. And this is just days before his own crucifixion. He's still looking at the bright side, saying, yes, there's a lot of turmoil in life right now, in my own life, in my friends, in my city, in my nation, and in the world, but there is spring that is coming. So Jesus never relented in this hopeful declaration that the kingdom of heaven is coming to earth. How long will it take for the kingdom of heaven to be fully established on earth? No idea. It's been 2,000 years since the life, death, and resurrection of Jesus. What I do know is we're heading in a better spot. It's taking a while, but little by little, we are alleviating the suffering of others because we're seeing the suffering of others. We're recognizing the suffering of others. I think I have a picture to show you. It's a picture of my desk. And above my desk is a world map. And my office at home has always had a world map on it because it helps with my lament. And I just pray from left to right. I pray for our own family and our church and our mission and people that we know and love that are friends. And then I pray for the needs of the people in the West, various parts of the world. Canada's always good, so they're fine. But you just keep moving, a little bit east. And, you head to Africa, and Sudan is just absolutely just a den of terror and horror and atrocities and abuse. I mean, unfathomable suffering in Sudan that, frankly, white people don't talk about, just to be honest. But to pray for Sudan every day. And then, of course, what's happening in Ukraine and what's happening geopolitically and the uncertainty in our world. To use that as a tool every day to center lament. And then to also say, God, this world that you made, all these continents and 8 billion people made in your image, there is hope there. This world one day will see the kingdom of heaven established on earth. And one day we will look to everybody, no matter their race, no matter their creed, no matter who they are, what they come from, their politics, no matter, we will treat everybody equally and fairly with love, and we will care for every single person in need, and we will give liberally, and we will give out of pleasure, and we will see the whole world rise to become the kingdom of heaven. That's hope in the midst of lament. That is the way of Jesus. It's hard to do. I certainly haven't nailed it. We certainly haven't nailed it, but we are going to keep crying out. How long, oh Lord? Do we have to see this suffering? And what we're going to keep crying out is, God, as we suffer and as the people around us suffer and as the world suffers, I'm going to do my part and we're going to do our part to find a need and meet it, to come alongside people who are not feeling supported and love them and care for them in their individual story, in their communal story, in our global story. We're going to close with a song that is just picture perfect. Alex chose every one of these songs, and this song could not be a better way to close out, balancing and holding both lament and hope. And so Evan and I are going to walk through the song just a little bit, and then we're going to close with it. This song starts with a very contemplative feeling of lament, musically and lyrically. So Alex, incredible pianist over there, is going to lead this song with this contemplative tone. It's kind of a sorrowful tone. And the lyric is, walking around these walls, I thought by now they'd fall. That's lament. I'm seeing the suffering. I'm seeing the walls crumble around me. And pretty quickly, there's this little spark of hope that appears in the song. I know the night won't last. Your word will come to pass. This is that how long? Well, there's going to be a time when hope will rise. And then the anticipation in the song starts to build. This is my confidence. You've never failed me yet. And that's when the music starts to rise a little bit. And then there's this interlude, this instrumental interlude, before it gets to the bridge, this instrumental interlude where you step away from the mic, you look at your band, and you're driving a rhythm, right? And it's, I don't know how many bars, but it's, I don't know, 8 bars or something like that.
408.
Yeah, okay, perfect. There's this instrumental that just drills in this beat. What is, do you think, the point of that musical interlude?
Yeah, so you have the very end of the chorus that says, you've never failed me yet.
Yeah.
And so you're coming to this realization where you're just kind of saying it. Maybe you don't believe it, but you want this and you want this to be true. You know that it is true, but maybe you haven't experienced that yet. Well, when you finally say that you've never failed me yet, it breaks into this instrumental that's almost this like, it dawns on you that this is the truth,
yeah.
And this will happen. So it gives you that hope, and it's almost like a hope rising. And
yeah.
There's this glass ceiling at the top of your head, and you can't break through this thing, but there's a heart rate rising, and there's calf muscles that are growing stronger, and you know that thing is about to shatter,
yeah.
And that's the instrumental of this bridge is the hope is here now. Let's move forward.
And then after that instrumental bridge, it then gets into a lyrical bridge, which just drives this truth, right? That even though you're walking through a spirit where the walls seem to be crumbling, you're declaring this thing that I'm not going to lose hope. So lead us through that bridge that we sing, I think, 3 times.
And I believe I see you do it again. Made a way when there was no way. And I believe I see you do it again.
Now the tech people actually rose my mic for that. So that was me singing, which was really cool. You'll actually sing the song. But we sing that several times, and the reason why we sing it several times is to really get this truth into our brains, that God, you are still moving. I'm not feeling it, but you are moving. You're moving mountains. I don't know what you're doing. Not seeing it. I'm not feeling it, but this is what you're doing, and this repeats. Now, in the whole worship war world, some people do not like when worship songs repeat.
Yes.
But there's science behind it, right? Repetition is key for the human brain to get something. That's why music unlocks this magic in our brains. Music plus repeated words, it sinks in. So you will repeat this bridge all day today, I promise you. Because the repetition of the words and the power of the music will sink this truth deep in your soul. And then, my favorite part is 2 key changes in the song.
2 key changes.
Now, I'm a kid of the 80s and 90s, and key changes were all over the place. Then the world took a break on key changes, which I
don't know why they did. I think a lot of musicians just started playing with like capos, and they didn't know how to change keys.
Oh, lazy.
You know?
They're lazy.
And then music became like cheap, and it's like, no, dude, change keys. It's amazing.
I think you're right. Yeah, the capo did it. But we're going to change keys twice. So we go from A.
Yes. Yeah. I'm going to see if you can.
B flat.
B flat.
Then to B. All right.
Wait,
now,
and then?
Yes, what?
And then B?
Yes, okay, I did. Yeah, pay attention.
Too quick.
So when he changes keys, normally he looks at the band and he goes like this, and so that means we're changing keys. Now, changing keys means we elevate the emotion, right? So we're declaring the truth of God. You're moving mountains, you're still working, and now we're going to elevate the key. So we rise in key, we rise in tone, we rise in energy, and we do it twice, which is really super cool. And so let's do this together. We're going to sing together, and I want to encourage you. For those of you who are not in the habit of singing in church, first, I get it. I am with you. We are soulmates. For the first years of my walk with God and walk with church, I just didn't get it. I didn't participate in it, thought it was a little weird, and I was insecure. I didn't want people to hear my voice because it's super, super bad. Still is. But I remember there was a summer camp years after I came to faith, and I was standing in the back, kind of uninterested, and the band was pretty terrible. I wasn't even going through anything in life. But something unlocked, like, why not? Why not just open my face? Maybe something comes out. And when I did, and I started singing, there was an emotional connection that I didn't even know was there with God. But it unlocked an emotional connection, the words and the music. So I want to encourage you, if singing is not your thing, I totally get it. You are free not to ever. But if there's ever a time we're going to take a risk and take a chance, might be right now. So let's all stand and sing this song together.
Walking around these walls, I thought by now they'd fall, but you have never failed me yet. Waiting for change to come, knowing the battle's won. For you have never failed me yet. Come on, say your promise still stands. Your promise still stands. Great is your faithfulness. Your faithfulness. I'm still in your hands. This is my confidence. You never failed me yet. Let's sing this together. I know the night won't last. I know the night won't last. Your word will come to pass. My heart will sing your praise again. Say, Jesus, you're still enough. Jesus, you're still enough. Keep me within your love. My heart will sing your praise again. Your promise still stands. Your promise still stands. Great is your faithfulness. Your faithfulness. I'm still in your hands. This is my confidence. Come on, you never fail. Oh, when you never will. Your promise still stands.
Well, Alex, that was awesome. Thank you all for participating in this. And for some of you, just taking a little bit of a risk, taking a stretch and singing in worship to connect these truths with our minds and our hearts and our emotions. And you helped us today unlock a lot of that, Alex, by sharing your story and your family's story. And it's good to see you all over there. And what a journey. And thanks for leading us well in that, Alex.
Yeah, and I just want to say thank you to our church family. This is a safe space for us. We're surrounded by friends and family. Many of you walked that journey with us. So appreciative. Like I said, there's so many other stories that we could tell about that time. I was glad to be able to share this morning. And I hope that there's people out there that are really struggling, that know that there's a place they can come and they can just be here with us. And we will hold you when you're hurting and walk you through it.
And you're going to be available over there. That's my corner.
Yeah.
I never allow anybody there, but today,
yes,
my corner is yours. If you
I
want
have
to talk
arrived.
To Alex, you want to talk to him, he'll be over there. If you don't like Alex and need prayer, you can go to the prayer corner over here. They would love to pray for you. I look forward to seeing you next week as we wrap up this worship series. Thank you so much. We'll see you.
Have a great week. Thanks.